But if you have assets of your own and
Hmm.
you have a business that you hope is going to be growing, or even if it's
Yeah.
not growing, but just generating revenue for you, you
Yeah.
have to have a prenuptial agreement. There is no ifs or buts about it. You can always, and I truly hope you live happily ever after. My husband and I have been married now for 24 years and hope another 24 like that, right? However, 50% of marriages do end up in divorce. It's very messy. Everyone says they're not going to fight, and then fights deteriorate. And if there is a
Yeah.
business that was growing during your marriage, the spouse is entitled to earnings. The spouse is entitled to valuation. The spouse is entitled to a lot of things. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to get a prenuptial and actually get it signed.
Welcome to Financially Ever After Widowhood, the podcast where we empower women to take control of their financial future after the loss of a spouse. I'm your host, Stacy Francis, President and CEO of Francis Financial, an award-winning and nationally recognized financial advisory firm. With the help of incredible guests, I'm ready to guide you through this challenging transition. Today's episode is for every business owner listening. And let's be honest, when you're running a business, you're constantly in motion, or at least I feel that way. You're managing clients, your team, payroll growth, your family. And somewhere in the middle of that, planning for your future quietly gets pushed to the very, 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 very bottom of your to-do list until something happens. So today we're talking about what business owners really need to know about estate planning and business protection. Not the theory, not the legal jargon, but the real world decisions that safeguard your business, your family, and everything that you've built. We're going to cover what happens to your business if something unexpected happens to you, the biggest mistakes even successful entrepreneurs make when it comes to planning, how to think about ownership, control, and fairness, especially if you have a romantic partner or children, and finally, how to start putting a plan in place without it taking over your life. Joining us today is Katya Sverdlov, a estate planning attorney who brings both strategy and deep empathy to her work. And before founding her own law firm, Katya spent over a decade on Wall Street, gaining a sophisticated understanding of financial assets, which she now uses to help clients protect and structure their wealth. She's also an active board member of Include New York City, a mom, a daughter to aging parents. This gives her a real world perspective on how complicated life can get, especially when you're trying to balance everything at once. And I want you to stay with us to the end because you're going to walk away with a simple, actionable first step you can take immediately, even if you feel completely overwhelmed and short on time. It's about protecting your business, your people, and the life you've worked so hard to create. Let's dive in. Katya, it's so nice to have you here on our podcast today, Financially Ever After. Welcome. We're going to be talking about some good stuff today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I would love to start off. Can you tell me a little bit about like who you are, what you do, kind of like your role in, your everyday life in your career?
I run a law practice and we focus exclusively on estate planning, which is really planning for and dealing with incapacity and death. So it's everything that's wills, trusts, powers of attorneys, probate, guardianships, but really it's how do you protect your independence for as long as possible, and how do you leave a legacy for your family, which will remember you lovingly, as opposed to with you, oh my God, this was so much pain in the end.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I know when I in the future pass away, the last thing I want is my kids to be burdened with, oh my gosh, really, mom didn't have everything together. I think that's like the worst concern that we have. And I know that you work with a lot of business owners, which I'll be honest, Katya, is really close to my heart. I am a business owner and There are a lot more implications, not only with like the rest of our financial life outside the business, but also with the business as well. What are some of the things that you see, particularly for women who are business owners? What are some of the things that she needs to be thinking about, what she might need to be planning for that could be the same or, in addition to someone that doesn't have a business?
There's so much in there, but really the number one issue is actually you need to do the planning. Because as a business owner myself, I am so busy and I have children and I
Mm-hmm.
have elderly parents and I have a spouse and I have friends and my own life and my own health. So there's so much. Planning is the absolutely last thing on the mind. And yet, this is so crucial because it is very hard for the family, for the friends, when someone gets ill and dealing with illness. It is 10 times more difficult when you also, in parallel, have to deal with finding assets, finding bank accounts, dealing with payroll that cannot be paid because no one can actually access anything, figuring out what to do, and fighting in the meantime about who has control.
Mm,
So, really, I think as a business owner, the first thing to do is that, can just like the airplane and the oxygen, you have
hmm
to plan for yourself first.
Yeah.
I would start with first making a list of all the accounts. Just make a list. Don't do anything yet. Don't make any appointments yet with it. Just make a list. Where is your money? What are the bank?
hmm
Where are the brokerage accounts? Where's the life insurance policy? Literally, I have a list. These are the places that I have. Where's the retirement account? Do you have a safety deposit box? Who does the payroll? Which company? Just making that list.
hmm
After that, we can work with figuring out what to do about it. But getting in the mindset that I need to plan and
hmm
it is actually a priority, and then starting with just a list would be incredibly helpful.
I appreciate that. And it's interesting. I think back to my journey. I started Francis Financial, my gosh, about 25 years ago now, Katya. And the first many, many years, I'll be honest, it was kind of just like survival mode. It was just me. I couldn't afford payroll. I couldn't afford an employee. And when I thought about estate planning for my family and my children, the estate planning I had was our personal assets, our personal checking, savings, retirement account, brokerage account, home, things like that. And I never ever even thought about estate planning for my company, partially because I'll be honest, like we would go from one month to another and I would try and make it work. It as a business owner, just like starting a business, as you know, it is so darn hard. But now the business is in a different place a couple decades later, and the business has assets. Francis Financial, we have 24 employees. We have payroll, we have expenses, and all of a sudden, it's a different situation. Not only am I planning for like my personal assets, but like, God forbid, I get hit by a truck and die unexpectedly. There has to be planning for also the business to make sure that all of our clients are taken care of and
Right.
all of our employees are taken care of. Do you see with a lot of really busy entrepreneurs that they might have done planning for their personal side, but like just completely don't think about the business?
Usually it actually comes together. Usually entrepreneurs are just so busy running that business and growing
I
the
know, right?
it actually, to be honest, once they start doing the personal planning, the business planning becomes part of it because
hmm
I ask the questions. Who is going to be taking over?
Who's
And
going to be taking
sometimes,
over the business,
right,
right?
exactly. And sometimes it's a child who is already working in the business.
Okay,
Great.
yep.
Does anybody know this? Is it actually memorialized anywhere? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it has nothing to do with children. However, you want to leave the value to the children. So then it's two separate things. One is how we're going to distribute the assets, but also within the business, who has access to anything? Is there an operating agreement about, because usually it's not just sole proprietors, although we do deal with work, sometimes it's 2 people, 3 people, 4 people who are all equal or unequal shares. And also quite often, especially amongst the immigrants, it's also, well, there's actually 3 partners, but 2 of them are on the books and the third one is off the books, but we know that he's there. Great. You understand if something happens, that third person is not getting anything at all because there's nothing in writing about it. Then we start working on actually memorializing it, right? Let's do a buy-sell agreement. Let's do an operating agreement. Who is in charge? Who is the manager in charge? If not, who is the next manager? This is really useful. And then your bank has to have that on file because if something happens to you, who is going to be able to access the business bank account, right? Simple things, very simple things, and yet incredibly important things. Because otherwise, again, something happens to you and there's no power of attorney and there's no succession in place. No one has the right to access those bank accounts. So it depends on the business. It depends on who is in the business with you. For example, people have 2 or 3 children and they say, I want to leave things equally to the 3 of them. Okay, that's usually the base. But then you have to ask the question, is anyone running that business with you? Oh, yes, my son is actually off in India, but my daughter is fully in this business with me. Like, do you think it's fair that for your son in India, he's going to get the same 50% as your daughter who is slaving away with you in this business? Oh, no, it's not fair. What about decision making? Do you think it's fair that the son in India who knows nothing about this business will have the same decision making power as the daughter who's been in it for the last 10 years? No, it's not. Great. If that's not fair, now that we discussed that, can we memorialize this? Can we
Got
actually,
it.
how do you make it happen? And then, of course, there are details about each one of them, but it's really just asking questions. I cannot make these decisions for the clients. My job is to help them see potential issues and then give options on how to address them.
Gotcha. I really appreciate that. And really what you're doing is, and I think which is great because everyone listening today hopefully is asking themselves those questions too. Like if God forbid something happened to me, what do I want to have happen with the business? How do I want to leave the business? Do I want to leave the business to my children? And if so, how do I do that in a way that's fair? And if I'm not going to do that, I want to be bought out. Who's going to buy me out? Are my partners going to be able to buy me out? And do they have enough money to be able to buy me out? Or, is the company going to be, do I have an agreement with a friendly competitor that would potentially buy me out? So the nice thing is there are lots of options. It's just talking through an attorney to figure out what the best structure is for you. But one of the things you brought up that is really powerful that I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about is the situation where you pass away, you own, let's say, 20% of the company, and you want your partners that own the 80% to buy out your portion so that your heirs get those dollars because they do not want to be running the business. And you also know that your current partners don't want to have new business partners who happen to be your spouse or your kids.
Or a minor child, right? They do
Or a
not.
minor child, right? Like a 3-year-old. And so can you talk to me about what a buy-sell agreement is and how that can be part of the solution?
There's a few things. One, just having one as opposed to not is incredibly helpful because, again, otherwise those 20% will go to the family. Second, it talks about under what circumstances can the purchase happen and what is the price of the purchase, because that's very important. You have a business right now with 24 employees. You think it's worth $200 million. So if you have 20%, your share is about $40 million. However, somebody else thinks it's actually worth only $100 million. How do we decide? So the buy-sell agreement spells it out. We will hire that type of an appraiser, and they will use appraisals based on this type of an industry standard,
Yep.
make
Yep.
decisions. And if there are any disagreements, then the other party has a right to get their own appraiser and pay for their appraisal and then do average. So all of that, it will actually be spelled out.
So you're setting up like a protocol
Exactly.
of,
What is the
you know,
valuation?
yeah,
Right.
what is the valuation? Which you're right, 100%. I could feel like this business is worth so much.
Mhm.
And,
Right, exactly. Because it's growing, because
yeah,
it says
if
about it.
all these things, right? And someone may feel differently. So I love that of putting again a protocol, almost like a formula in place to make sure that everyone is treated fairly, both the person who unfortunately has passed away, but then also anyone who might be purchasing it.
Exactly. And then who does have the right to purchase it, right? So usually we say the existing partners have the first right to do so, but they cannot have an unfettered, unlimited right to purchase it because, to your point, do they have the money to do this, right? They may want to do this, but they
Yeah.
may not be able to do this. So we put in the time frame. We say this is how the valuation will be determined. The partners have usually 12 months to purchase the money. Now, that's another thing because usually, again, it's a lot of money. Again, depending on the
Yeah.
business, but that can be money. Where are they going to get it? Where are they going to get this liquidity? So we recommend, again, cannot force people, but we recommend that people get a life insurance policy that the business will have. In addition to whatever life insurance policy you may have for your own family outside the business, within the business, you can have key employee life insurance policy so that there will be some liquidity as well for the business to pay the family out.
So, Katya, my understanding then is the business actually gets life insurance on, let's say, me, and I pass away. That money comes back into the business and it allows the partners to say, okay, that 40 million or that 20 million that Stacy owned, we're going to buy that. And the insurance policy that we took out on Stacy's life, because we're smart, is going to give us the money to be able to do that so that it's seamless and it's easy. A question: what happens? Because this is actually true. I have a life insurance policy that allows my partners to buy me out. But Katya, what happens for those businesses that are growing in value? So I took out a policy, I guess it was maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, but that now actually isn't enough to buy out my shares because the business has grown in value so much.
Good problems to have.
It is a good problem to have, Katya. It is a good problem, but
So you can update the insurance policy, right?
okay. So take
And
on additional insurance. Yep.
then the business can keep paying for that. Or you can keep your fingers crossed that if something like that does happen, they will have some liquidity and they can also do an agreement with the heirs saying, we will pay you X amount of money now because
Yep.
we actually have it. And then the rest of the money was going to come over the next 3 years, 5 years, 10
Yep.
years as
Got
the
it.
business is generating money.
Got
Again,
it.
that can actually be part of the buy-sell agreement as well. In that, though, again, how do you want the structure? Some people say, 12 months and we're out. And then, of course, not everyone has a life insurance policy, or it may not be enough, or the partners just don't want to deal with it. In
Hmm.
which case, again, the buy-sell agreement says at that point, and by the way, and the buy-sell agreement is not just for death, right? Stacy right now may want to say, you know what, I am done with this business. I don't want to work at this anymore. I want to sell my share now. I want to sell my 20% share now. I want to retire. Your existing partners might not want you to sell it to just anybody. So the buy-sell agreement says Stacy cannot just go ahead and go on the open market and sell her 20% share to a random person. She first has to offer it to the existing partners.
Got it. Yeah.
Same with the heirs. So that's basically the right of first refusal. First and foremost, the existing partners have the right to purchase out those shares, either from Stacy, who's alive, or from Stacy's heirs.
Hmm.
If they cannot or do not want to, then and only then can the heirs go out and either keep it themselves and manage the business themselves if that's what they choose, or try to find a buyer. So
Yep.
the summary of a buy-sell agreement. How do you split ways? Whether you are still alive or after passing.
It's interesting. And something that someone shared with me was that sometimes the worst thing that can happen is not having the owner die, but actually the owner is incapacitated and can't come back to the business ever. And the life insurance payout doesn't happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not working in the business. And something that I did that I'm just going to brag a little bit. I hope you don't mind. I got a disability policy, not only for me personally, for my family, if God forbid I can't work, but I also got a second one for the business that is a business continuity disability, and it pays payroll and the business expenses. We estimated what those were for each month, and it gives 2 years of full payment of every single one of those dollars so that the business can continue and not have to worry about any of the expenses. So that's another piece. While it's not necessarily planning for death, it can be really important.
It can be, right? Because illnesses do happen. Cancer happens,
Yeah,
strokes happen.
it's more likely than us actually dying, especially if we're women.
Absolutely. But again, I see that rarely, to be honest. Yes, very few people are
I'm a
as well.
financial planner, right? I'm probably on the other side, but yeah, no, I feel like a lot of people just being a business owner, and you know this too, like I feel like I'm drinking out of a fire hose. It's just so busy. There's always more to do, and you're trying to balance work, and you're trying to balance your family, and you're trying to balance everything. And to do this work, you have to kind of take a step back. And instead of working in the business every day, making sure that everything's happening, you have to take a step back and work on the business and think about some things that are a little unpleasant of God forbid what happens and what am I going to do? But one thing that I tell people that's so important, we have our personal family and you want to make sure that your family is protected, but you also have your work family. And these people are so important. And God forbid, if you're not there, like what's going to happen to them? And so making sure
Because
that
you're providing a livelihood. You're providing a
exactly. I know for my family here at Francis Financial, we just had a big Easter celebration and we had an Easter egg hunt and we had remote control bunny races and scavenger hunts. And that day I was like, I am so blessed. These people are just such great people. And I feel so blessed to have them. And I also feel responsible
Mhm.
because I need to make sure that they're okay. Their family is okay if God forbid something happens. So another question I want to ask, is there a role for trusts or like different types of business entities in planning that entrepreneurs should think about as well?
Yes, and I would not be able to tell you which trust on this call because
Yeah, because
both
I imagine it's like every single person, but it sounds like that's a question that entrepreneurs should be asking of what roles do trust play? Does that make sense for my situation and my goals?
and the key is to do this timely as
Yeah,
opposed to emergency. So I had two people come to me in the last 2 months with almost screaming, yelling, I need a trust now. And I know by now that if this is so urgent, that there is a problem. So my next
something's going on.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
my next question is, and so again, these are business owners that have come. So my next question is, are you getting sued already? In one case, the answer was yes. In one case, the answer was no, but maybe soon. So
Ugh,
if the answer is yes already, there is nothing that I can do. Well, almost nothing that I can do
hmm
to protect your assets at that point, because that's called fraudulent conveyance. And both
hmm
you and I will be going to jail for doing that,
Yeah.
which
So fraudulent conveyance, just those words sound very scary, not the right thing to be doing.
no, if you're already getting sued or you know that you're about to be sued. And so people always ask, what does that actually mean? Like, well, if you were driving today and you hit somebody and
hmm
that person is in the hospital, you have not been sued yet. However, you have a very good idea that you're about to be sued. At that point, it's too late. But with your business, again, if you have a business and things are going okay, fairly, that is a very good time to do asset
Yeah.
protection.
Sounds like before there's problems.
Before there are problems. Because if there are already problems and you are getting sued, you cannot be transferring assets at that point. You cannot be transferring to your spouse, you cannot be transferring to your children, you cannot be
Yeah.
transferring to an irrevocable trust to protect. Either any one of these things are still considered fraudulent conveyances because you're hiding your assets
Yeah.
from the creditors. But if you do that ahead of time, as part of your normal estate planning,
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. Even
Yeah.
if you already have the debt, but you're servicing that debt, again, it's perfectly fine. You're servicing the debt. There's nothing that warrants any problems at this point. That is a very good time to do planning. And so one type of trust, again, there are many different types of trust that we do, but one is an irrevocable trust for the purposes of asset protection. People say, well, I don't want this. Can I just transfer it to my children? Yes, you may. And I always recommend not to, because then there are problems. For example, like if you transfer an asset to your child, and now your child has his own creditors, is going through a divorce himself.
Oh
That
boy.
that
Yeah.
spouse has the right to get your asset, and there's nothing you can do with it. Whereas if you put that into a trust for the benefit of your son, even if he is going through a divorce, the spouse will have no right to get them. There are also other things that you can do for asset protection. For example, again, if you have spouse and children, you can put into a trust for the benefit of the three of them, and you can put in certain provisions that say who has the right to distribute money. But the key is you have to do this timely.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to do this when you're already getting sued, it's too late. I always have to
Yeah.
ask the question.
That's really smart. It's like Katya, I think about it. The time to apply for life insurance is not after you've been diagnosed with cancer, right?
Correct.
It's the same thing. And actually you talked about that in the beginning, kind of like the biggest mistake people make is they don't plan, that you have to think about this. Talking about planning for the future, and you talked a little bit about marriage and divorce. What are the things people need to think about who are business owners who are going into a marriage? Can you use prenups as a tool? Like, what does that look like?
You have to use a prenup. Every adult, and by adults, I consider people 25 and over, although legally you're 18, but until you graduate college and start working, you're not really an adult still. But 25 and
Can we tell my children that? Because my son, he's 20, he's in college, and bless, he thinks he's an adult. I love him, but he's, in my opinion, not quite there yet.
no, I have two children. I have a 22-year-old and a 17-year-old.
Oh my
So
gosh, we're living the same life almost.
yes, and my daughter is graduating this year and she just got a job. So
Oh,
thank God. So
congratulations.
so I may, in about 6 months, when she actually becomes self-sufficient, I may
Yep,
say.
check,
Right.
you're an adult.
But if you have assets of your own and
Hmm.
you have a business that you hope is going to be growing, or even if it's
Yeah,
not growing, but just generating revenue for you, you
yeah,
have to have a prenuptial agreement. There is no ifs or buts about it. You can always, and I truly hope you live happily ever after. My husband and I have been married now for 24 years and hope another 24 like that, right? However, 50% of marriages do end up in divorce. It's very messy. Everyone says they're not going to fight, and then fights deteriorate. And if there is a
yeah,
business that was growing during your marriage, the spouse is entitled to earnings. The spouse is entitled to valuation. The spouse is entitled to a lot of things. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to get a prenuptial and actually get it signed. And I say, I've had people who've come to me telling me they have prenuptial agreements and the spouse gets nothing. I'm like, great, that's lovely. Can I see that prenuptial? You show it to me. Like, it's a great prenuptial agreement. I love it. Do you have a signed copy? And it turns out that while they drafted it, somehow they never got around to signing it. And it
oh
happened
my God.
and it happened more than once. And again, very smart people, very intelligent people, very high net worth people just never really
Yeah,
understood that having a piece of paper where you really drafted out everything, but not having had it signed in front of a notary and witnesses makes it completely useless. So that's one of the people are asking, and you haven't asked this question yet, but people are asking, do I need a lawyer for any of this? Can I actually do it all myself? The answer is yes, absolutely. You can do it all yourself. However, the question is, will you?
Or do you want to?
Do you, I
Or
mean, what?
should you?
Will you spend the hours needed to figure it out? And yes, you will need hours. And I use AI and Claude and Perplexity all the time, and they're not quite accurate. Not like you have to ask the questions really, really well, and then you have to check the answer. And if you're not an expert on it, you really don't know what you're checking. But
Yeah,
regardless, I think even if you did spend the time, one of the values of an attorney is, and a financial advisor, actually, and just any type of fiduciary and an accountant, is actually making sure that things get done. So just like that
yeah,
financial, that was great, but never got signed, a trust that gets created but never gets funded, a power of attorney that doesn't get signed is completely useless. So it's not just what do we provide the value in? It's asking the right questions, right?
hmm
Because everyone says, I just need a simple will. Okay, let's talk about it. So asking the right questions is very important. What is your situation? Who is your family? What do you want to happen to your family? More than 50% right now of people who have children with problems. And problems can be different types of
All
problems.
different. Yeah, all different. It can be medical. It can be mental health. It can be a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
It can also be we haven't talked to each other in the last 5 years.
yeah,
My
yeah,
children hate each other and don't speak to each other. Great. They should not be co-trustees then, because that will create a problem. So asking the right questions,
yeah,
creating a plan that's right for this particular person. Again, every business is different, every family is different, every person is
yeah.
different. I always ask, what do you want? Like I start the question, what are your goals? Because the goals can be very different as well. Some people say, I want it to be easy for my kids. And that's the main goal. That's fine. Other people say, I want to pay the least amount of taxes. It's not
hmm
as important for others. Like I thought it would be more important. Some people say, no, I don't care. I'm grateful to America. I have this opportunity. Thank you so much. I don't care if they have to pay an extra 5 million in taxes. We're doing fine. Okay, then we focus on the family, right? Some people focus on the taxes. Some people say, I am building this legacy with my business and I really want this to continue. I don't care if it's a family, like this business is my life. Okay, then we focus on that. It's different, right? So you cannot generalize what should be done. It is
And
really,
what the
and
right
then,
choice is.
right. And then once the plan is created, then it's a matter of, and let's implement it. And implementing is, again, it's hard with business owners because this is not their priority. The business is the priority, the family is the priority. So part of the value that we bring is that I harass people. Me, my staff, we harass, right? And like
I love it.
I
Harassing with love.
yes, absolutely. Because I know that you need to get this done. And it's my job to ensure that you do. And I understand that you're busy, so I don't take it personally, but we will follow up with you once a week, once every 2 weeks, to make sure that you actually give us the information, that you actually sign the documents, that you actually get this done. And then I'll stop harassing you.
I think it's wonderful because you're right. Every person has different thoughts and priorities, whether it's, saving and taxes, estate taxes, it's making it really easy for their kids, passing the business on to their kids or passing it to their partners or wanting it to be an ongoing company that lives many years beyond them. I think working with a professional, it's kind of like, well, if I need to have heart surgery, I'm not doing it on myself and I'm going to go to the best heart surgeon there is, right? And, I always giggle and don't judge me, but when anyone says I have a simple will, it's very straightforward, not a lot of complexity. No one has a simple will. Every single person, there's something, whether it's complicated assets, or maybe it's different issues with your children, or maybe you don't have children, or I know that we all tell ourselves that like our situation is simple, And I think we do that because we don't want to realize that, quite frankly, almost all of our lives are complicated in different ways. And it's really important to do this planning. And not only are our personal lives all different and unique, but all of our businesses are different. And the planning that I have for Francis Financial has to be very different today than it was 10 years ago, and very different than it was 25 years ago, because our businesses change too. It's really interesting. I have so enjoyed this conversation because I will be honest, when I've thought about estate planning, I tend to think about it on the personal side. I don't ever really realize. And I think part of it is many business owners have created their business from nothing, and we've sacrificed, and we've just worked so hard that finding yourself in a place where it's grown and it actually has value and you do have employees, sometimes we don't take the moment to like step back and like really realize, oh my gosh, I've actually built something. Sometimes I feel like we have that problem, and this is a great reminder of it. And I'll just share one more quick story. My son, about a year ago, Katya, we were having dinner and he was 19. He turned to me, he's like, okay, mom, when you die, I was like, okay, yeah, when I die, he goes, what do you want Sam and I to do with the business? He's like, do you want us to keep all the employees? Like, what does that look like? And Sam and I chatted. Sam is my 17-year-old, Samantha. He's like, we don't want your business and we do not want to do what you do. And I was like, okay, good to know. Really good that we're chatting about this. And two things that came out about it is, number one, that my kids were worried about this. They know how much I love my team and our clients. He was actually really worried about this. And secondly, it also gave me a lot of comfort because we've done all of this planning, and I was able to share that with them. And it was really good for them to know, like, this is who you talk to about the buy-sell agreement. This is the life insurance policy, and you're going to get paid out, and blah, 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 blah. It was such a good conversation. And it was such an eye-opener for me to realize that here I was, I thought I was doing this, and that the kids that it wasn't even on their radar. But it obviously was. It obviously was. And of course, then he said, and how much might we be paid out? How much is the business worth? I was like, okay, Sebastian, I want to tell you, you got to have your own career. You're not just going to like bump off mom and live on millions for the rest of your life. But it was a good conversation, a really good conversation.
I'm so glad that your children are so proactive. That's really wonderful.
That's one way
They
to say it,
understand.
proactive. Yep.
No,
Yeah.
it's really great that they want to know and they understand. It took me a while to get my kids to be interested in anything, but yes, you have to.
Yeah.
Once,
Well, I think also too, I mean, talking to your family about it too. So like putting all these plans in place and then explaining like your sister works in the business and she works her tail feathers off. And so she's getting more of the shares of the business and you're going to be getting another asset, like just making it so there's no surprise so that the people who you love don't have that then awful surprise of mom did what,
right. And
not
so
understanding, feeling
they,
hurt.
and if they do feel hurt and they want to have a fight, they should have it with you as opposed
Yeah,
to later with each other. Because
exactly.
that just leads to years of litigation as opposed to even like bringing things up now shows that you have the mental capacity to do it so that
Yeah,
they cannot be arguing, oh, mom didn't know what she was doing by dividing it up XYZ. No, she actually did. She told you about it 5 years before she died.
yeah,
And this was her wish, and it may not be what you wanted, but it was her money to give or not.
yeah, yeah. Katya, I could talk to you for so much longer. This has been so interesting and so enlightening. And you've been able to make talking about estate planning for business owners interesting, which FYI, I think is a huge feat right there. What is the best way for our listeners to reach out to you?
They can call us 212-709-8112. We're located on Wall Street. We serve all of New York State and only New York State. Or they can email us at info@sverdlovlaw.com and we'll
Perfect.
be to chat.
And for all of you listening, don't worry, I will be putting that in the show notes for you too. And just so you know, Katya, I'm waving at you because I am about 2 blocks from Wall Street. Many of you may know this who are listening. Our office, gosh, we've been here for many, many years, but we're right next to the famous statue of the bull down here near Wall Street. And so every time I walk out the door, I see that, and it helps me again to remember, like, make sure you're planning, make sure you're investing for your future. And a big part of it is what we've talked about today. So thank you so much for being here and for sharing your personal experience, but then also the experience of your clients and all of your knowledge. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for hosting. I really appreciate it.
This conversation really comes down to one thing: protection. And not just protecting your assets, but protecting your business, your team, and the people you love. Because if you're a business owner, your life isn't just about personal finance. Your business is also part of your legacy. It supports your family, your employees, and your clients. Without a plan, everything you've built can come crumbling down. What Katya made so clear today is that the risk isn't just about what happens if you pass away. It's also what happens if you're unavailable. Who's going to step in? Who's going to run the business and make the decisions that need to be made? That's when things can fall apart. And what it really means is that estate planning isn't something extra you get to one day. It's part of being a responsible business owner. It's part of being a leader and part of showing the important people in your life that you love them. At Francis Financial, this is exactly the work we do. We partner with attorneys and we help women, especially business owners, put thoughtful plans in place that protect their business, their family, their future without feeling overwhelmed. And if you're ready to take the next step, reach out to us. We're here to guide you through everything and step by step be by your side. If this episode made you think of someone in your life, maybe even a fellow business owner, a partner, a friend, please share it with them, because this is the kind of planning that truly changes lives. So thank you for being here with us. And until next time, take care of your business and the people who make it all matter. Thank you for tuning in to Financially Ever After Widowhood. If there's a question you'd love for us to answer on the podcast, we can do that for you. All you have to do is give us a call, and the number is 347-682-5580. Let me say that again, 347-682-5580. Whether you're working with an advisor or you're maybe doing it on your own, we invite you to reach out to us at www.francisfinancial.com, or you can email me at Stacy, Stacy, at francisfinancial.com. Our hope is to be a resource for you to help you also find a great financial advisor, whether that be with our firm or one of our trusted colleagues. Please be sure to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast, and join us next time on Financially Ever After Widowhood.